Today I want to talk about Silver Buster, written by Jordan Allen, author of many fantasy and sci-fi books. He goes by Mighty Scrow on Twitter, or X. The crowdfunding campaign for Silver Buster Volume 2 is coming up, and I know he's working on Volume 3 as well. He mentioned something on Twitter recently, and I finished the book about a week ago, so I decided now's a great time to talk about it. And I just want to talk about it. It's a cool book for me as somebody who likes Ultraman, who likes Kamen Rider, who likes Super Sentai, who likes all that good Tokusatsu goodness. And that's basically what it delivers. It delivers a basic Tokusatsu story, a Henshin hero story, and it's a lot of fun. It commits to what it is, and it doesn't try to give you like an epic story or a big prestige novel. It's a light novel. It's pulpy, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's a virtue of it, and I enjoy what he's doing with it, and I enjoy what he's doing with it. It has a very grounded tone, I would say. Even though there's mention that there are other superheroes in the world, this place where Jeff, the main character, lives is Belmont, I believe. Jeffrey, or sorry, I'm getting my indie authors confused. I believe, oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. I'm forgetting now. Jordan. Yes, I believe Jordan lives in Belfast. That's what he has on Twitter. And this guy, Jeff, is in Belmont. So, kind of works. Anyway, he mentions that there are other superheroes in the world who are dealing with other things, and he's here in Belmont protecting it. And the story takes place over a small amount of time, which helps it to feel more grounded and to be smaller scale because it's not intergalactic stakes. It's very real, very human stakes. Where Jeff is and in his town, and the threat of the Quinn mercenaries who are there at this time. So it's nice. It's personal and human without drifting into slice of life padding. You're always moving forward with the story and with the plot, I guess you could say, but you still feel like you know the guy under the suit because you do get to spend a lot of time with Jeff and Slick, the alien symbiote who he's paired with, which I'll get into in a little bit. So I think Jeff works because he's decent before he's powerful. The first thing that he does that in an action sort of circumstances, I believe he runs towards the danger, and then he punches a lizard man alien in his face, and I think he hurts his hand, if I'm remembering correctly, and the Metatite jumps onto him, and together they are able to be stronger, and it's like a sloppy, think about Kuga growing, but instead of growing, it's just like he's partially Kuga in one area, and that's it. I'm pretty sure that's how that beat goes, which I thought was pretty cool, because like I mentioned, it being grounded, a lot of things that happen in this book are like, what if this was really happening, but not in like a subversive kind of way, and not in a dark or depressing way. It's like, what would happen? What could happen? Does the full suit need to come on every time? Does the full suit need to be fully developed? No, it doesn't. It would be sloppy and messy and organic, and it'd be like that for a while before things were more refined, and that's pretty fun for me. But anyway, I was saying Jeff's like a decent person, and he does this heroic act, and that's really cool and really enjoyable. There's a moral center here. It's not preachy at all. There's brief mention of God, but it's not like a religious type of thing, I don't think. And like Jeff reacts like a normal person would, but then when it counts, he steps up in a way that feels earned, because other than the, like, I'm crazy, why did I just punch this alien? He trains and develops his powers, and, like, there's no choice. He has to fight or he'll die. So, that works. Speaking of having to fight, or, like, the reason he has to fight or he'll die is because he is the host now of this Metatite, this liquid metal alien armor thing. I believe it's a bioweapon. It has one orange eye on it. I believe it has a number designation on the ship, and the Kryn are mercenaries who are alien mercenaries, so they're hired to do stuff, and they're transporting this Metatite, which is how they refer to it, somewhere. We don't know for what purpose. I would assume to be a weapon for somebody, and it gets out, and when it gets on to Jeff, at some point they start talking, and because he's able to communicate to it, they're able to communicate with each other like telepathically. And if I'm remembering correctly, Jeff says, like, what are you? Who are you? And the Metatite responds, I'm FN2187, if you get the reference. And he's like, I'm not going to call you by a number. Let me give you a name instead. I'll call you Slick. And the naming moment hits that classic Tokusatsu nerve. It's kind of like the Onk thing from O's. I don't know. There's a little bit of like maybe even Battle Hopper in there for me. Uh, I like though that there's not. If I'd seen Revice, I would have that comparison to make as well. But it's cool because it's like you have this interesting character who is the symbiote, who is the Metatite. It's kind of like it's like Guyver if Sho ever or any of them ever spoke to the something inside of the Guyver unit. It's like Yamayugi. It's like that kind of aspect of this dual identity of you have this person plus this entity, and together they're working together, and I like that. I really like that. They have a relationship that grows over the course of the story, and it's interesting and fun. The Metatite, Slick, is what he calls him. Jeff calls him Slick. He's like a fish out of water. Which sounds really stupid saying it out loud, but you know what I mean. It's a phrase. He's a fish out of water, and he's not used to the human world. But it was cool. On the Kryn ship, they had like a language matrix thing, and he absorbed English from it, so he understands English. So when he goes down and speaks to Jeff, I think it was English and not all of Earth's languages. Could have been all of Earth's languages, whatever. He absorbs languages, and it's interesting because it hurts him. It like comes at a cost, which I thought was a really interesting touch. And like the book starts off from Slick's perspective of him running away on the ship and trying to get out, and he sees a small number of escape pods, and he uses one of them to crash land on the planet. And then later they go back to the site of where he was, which was interesting because you could have not done that, but Alan writes it in a way that he's like, and just like doing things that a reasonable person would do, and a lot of it makes a lot of sense to me. Anyway, you can very much feel like this is Ultraman because Jeff is a host, but it's also like Kamen Rider because he's a lone hero. It's also a little Super Sentai though because he shouts out his attacks, and he has a transformation phrase that he calls out, which I think is Silver Buster Shine, which is pretty fun. And like he explains to Slick like why they need to do this, and it's kind of fun to hear like the justification of why we need to do Tokusatsu tropes. And it's fun. I enjoy the Henshin hero tropes, and I can tell Ellen does too, and it's fun for me. So anyway, like I was saying, it feels like he's definitely familiar, and like he's pulling these things together to make it like a composite of these different Henshin heroes, but it's its own thing, and I appreciate that. There's it's like Ultraman, Kamen Rider, Super Sentai, Guyver, a little bit. I would say those four. Let me see. Transformation, language, and attitude. This book understands the attitude of transformation. Oh, because it's got the call-outs and the names for the attacks and things like that. And he even has like first he's got like an arm blade, and then he eventually makes a sword, spoilers. And he's got some other things. He does some different options with his armor, which is a lot of fun. Speaking of which, like a lot of it is about progression. I believe Alan writes and mostly releases stuff on Royal Road, which is cool. I've enjoyed some things from Royal Road. And you can feel the progression there, and like I said, this takes place over, I think it's a fortnight. I think it's, was it 10 days, 14 days, something like that? Anyway, maybe it's 12 days. Anyway, it feels like it's a short amount of time, and it feels like the beginning arc of a show, and it feels like, okay, this guy's exposed to this new power, he knows what this threat is, he is figuring out how to work his powers and how to develop it, and Slick is getting stronger all the time, and so is Jeff. Jeff starts going to a gym and learning to box with this old, I think he's like a local legend, local hero, but I don't think he was a hero. I think he was a boxer, and it's like, oh, he's a hero in the town for being a boxer, not a literal superhero, which there are other superheroes in the world, like I mentioned before. I think I mentioned that before. I meant to. Anyway, but it's cool because like you get to see this progression, and I think Slick has the ability to, I think Slick can accelerate his healing, and I think Slick can accelerate his growth as well. If you're a 90s kid like me, you remember in the 1990s, Eddie Brock was pumping iron with the symbiote, and his muscles got huge. He got swole fast, and I kind of feel like there's something going on similar with Slick. I think he's able to enhance Jeff's physical abilities and like all his physical parameters, but it doesn't mean Jeff doesn't get hurt. He does get hurt. He gets hurt from his fights. The training, I don't know that the training actually hurts him, but he like can't go as hard in the training. But definitely, like, even you spend some time with him and his trainer, Bulldog, Mad Bull, Mad Dog, I can't remember what his name is. Anyway, and he he has progression. It's like he starts off kind of wimpy and kind of weak and having a hard time, and then he develops and like earns his trainer's respect, which is cool. So yeah, it's nice that there's this progression and there's this energy of progression. There's this responsibility that Jeff feels and sees that he has to get better. He has to get good. Otherwise he'll die and it'll be bad. He, like the Kryn mercenaries, they want Slick back. And once Slick has been bonded to somebody, they could they say like they could cut his leg off, cut his arm off, whatever, with Slick on it, and then that'd be fine. Or they could kill him, and then Slick would be released from the host Jeff, and then they'd be able to take him, and that's what they want. And he wants to stop them, and the Kryn keep escalating things, escalating, because they want to lure him out basically and capture the metatype because it's super valuable to them. I mean, they can make a lot of money off of it, so that's interesting. And like I said, his failures cost him something. He gets hurt, he gets injured, he has to heal. Slick helps with that, but it's still, he's like in pain in some of the fights, and he's having a hard time with things, and he's even like bleeding in class, and he's trying not to be caught and trying not to be figured out who he is and that he is Silverbuster. And there's this whole cute fun thing where he like comes up with the Silverbuster name, and he designs the suit, and he's able to show it to Slick, like from under his clothes, you know, he like works his way up so that his eye is on his neck or wherever, where he can look out and see. I think he like peeks through the holes in his shirt, you know, in his button shirt, and he can see what Jeff has drawn, and then that's the Silverbuster design we have. And they talk about, you know, practicing, like Slick can only hold the form for so long, kind of like Ultraman's limit, but like the longer he goes, the stronger he gets, which is pretty cool. And yeah, that kind of stuff is all fun. The villains are neat. There's images in the book because it's like a light novel, so you get to see some of them. Captain Zanek looks pretty cool from the back. He's kind of like a dragonish demon lord kind of guy with like a wing. I think he's got horns, wings, and a tail. And then there's these Floral sisters, who we'll talk about later, the twins. And then there's like a bat guy who's going to be featured in volume 2, but he wasn't in volume 1 as far as having an image of him. And there's a lizard guy who he fights. And there are these Gearborgs who are like the mooks, and they're mostly machine, but they're also like, they have bones in them and stuff, and their bones break when he fights them, and it's like kind of gross and fun and cool. The supporting cast is decent. I know Miri, the girl that Jeff is kind of interested in. There's Zane, spelled kind of funny, who's like a kind of like a jerk, but also kind of like a cool character. He gets to have a reveal of his character throughout the book. Jeff's best friend, Mr. Wheeler, I don't remember his name. I'm going to call him Joey. And I like him fine. His sister's okay too. We get Jeff's sisters. Mom and dad are cool. They're like actual loving, supportive parents, and his mom's worried about him, and his dad like maybe kind of senses things are going on and wants to help his son. And there's no reveal yet of who he is or anything, but it's cool. It's like a good starting cast. Like I said, good beginning of a season energy, and I feel like this can go, 3 to 4 volumes and feel like a cool story can be told through it. So that's all part of my praise for the book, and like I said, I plan to check out, support the campaign for book number 2, because I'm interested in getting the book, and seems like an easy way to do it. If I like it, I want to support it, and I want this guy to keep going, then I'll support the book for sure. But there are some weird things, some caveats, things I didn't like, and yeah, I'm not going to shy away from that because I don't like censorship. I don't like sucking up to people. I like to be honest and open and just say it like it is. So here it is. The twins, the alien warrior women, whose name is, I don't remember right now. They have white hair, and one of them has like a rose dress, the other one has I don't know what, and they both have like plant like whip appendages or weapons that they use. Anyway, they're meant to be spicy, like Super Sentai villainesses, and which some of which we get to see in Power Rangers as well. Like the big one I'm thinking of right now is in the big one I'm thinking of right now is in Go-Go V or Lightspeed Rescue. That lady is definitely meant to be, fun for certain members of the audience, and I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't appreciate it. I think it's an indulgence of the genre, and it goes back to, I don't know, probably Japanese culture to some extent, and I come from a very different perspective. And I just don't see a need to have female characters who are alluring for the sake of them being alluring. And while I do enjoy female characters, female villains, female villains and female heroines as well, I just, anything to sexualize them or whatever is not really welcome for me, and I don't understand it. And what's interesting is that I can feel like Alan is kind of like toying with that, playing with it, and like working with it. Like he chose to make them dress like that. He chose to make them be alluring. And there's a difference between beautiful and alluring. There's a difference between attractive and attracting. And I feel like he chose to make them attracting because that's what they do in Super Sentai and in Kamen Rider to some extent, and maybe even in Ultraman. And that just feels at odds with these mentions of God in the book. And even Jeff is like, oh, you sexy alien vixen, I'm not going to be tempted by you, and I'm not going to be, distracted by your cleavage. I'm going to fight you and whatever. And it's just like, he's a teenage boy, so that makes sense. And thank goodness this is third person, not first person. We don't have to hear him, lusting after them or, struggling to not lust after them or whatever. But it just creates a dissonance for me, and it's something I don't like, something I don't appreciate. And I do appreciate the thoughts of, like, I think Jeff tells Slick, like, if God wants us to be together till, I die or whatever, and I'm going to help you, then, like, that's cool. I accept it. It's part of my life. It's part of my destiny. It's what God has planned for me. And then there's one other reference later on, and I was like, this is interesting. So, like, I wonder if this guy's a Christian, if he's, Anglican, if he's, Orthodox, whatever. He's some variety of a religious person, and that would make sense to me with these allusions. But it would also make sense that he's just putting them there for flavor, perhaps. But it's funny because those things really strike in a weird way against this, the sexy villainesses. And I don't know, just could have been handled better. Not something I would even broach in my stuff, in the planning I'm doing for my Henshin hero stories, my transforming hero stories. I'm not planning on having anything like that. And that's not me saying I'm superior. I'm just saying it's a different approach, and like I'm just planning to skirt around the issue altogether. But I did that in my Growbug book too. I made it so that all the Growbugs are siblings, so like you can't ship them without being a degenerate. So I don't know. And it's not the author's responsibility to make sure that the audience doesn't do anything weird with their characters. But I remember hearing one of the people behind Evangelion was really upset that people treat, not only Masato, but Rei and Asuka as waifus. And I watched Evangelion first when I was in high school, and I understood the impulse. I'm also not like I'm not a pillow guy, a body pillow guy, or a figurine collector, or PVC, sexy girl figure collector. Like that's all, like that doesn't work for me. That's anathema to me, really. But I thought at the time, like, well, if you didn't want them to be sexualized or sexy, like why did you make them that way? Like Rei is obviously meant to be a sex object to Shinji to some extent, as is Masato. Asuka as well. Like she objectifies herself for Shinji, like to get a rise out of him, to provoke him to do different things. Something about one of their first episodes where it's got the thermal expansion episode. If you know Evangelion, you know what I'm talking about exactly. And like, if you're gonna don't put that kind of stuff into your thing and then be mad at people when they react to it, when they're provoked by your provocation. And I'm not accusing Alan of doing that at all. It's just, it's interesting. And it's like, I wonder what the thought process was there. I'd love to talk to him about it at some point, but I'm not going on a crusade against the book because of that. And I'm not saying you shouldn't check it out. I thought this was going to be an all ages thing, and it's not so much an all ages thing. It's more a teen or adult thing, which is fine. I'm not trying to force him in any genre, but I want to write middle grade more than adult fiction because I feel like there's a lot of stuff for kids that isn't quite where it could be. There are compromises that it makes or things that it does that aren't in spirit with, everything else in the show or story. And I don't want that. I want kids media that's like at a certain level, has stakes, has danger, has noble characters fighting real villains, which I feel very much like Alan and I are vibing on those sorts of things. But I want to make sure that it's like, not pristine. Pristine is the wrong word. I want to make sure it's at a certain level and it like never crosses certain lines. And that's my personal thing for my writing, but I'm not pushing that on other people saying they have to write the same way. For example, I won't belabor it. I'll just stop there because I think this could turn into a big bad distraction. So anyway, the bottom line is I really had a good time with the book. I'm interested in book 2. I think I'm going to fund it, back it when it goes up on Kickstarter soonish. I can provide the link here in the description too and in my show notes. And he's working on book 3, and I find that prospect exciting as well. And I'm looking forward to see where it's going to go. And yeah, it's a good Tokusatsu book. If you like Kamen Rider, Ultraman, Super Sentai, if you like Henshin Heroes, I think you're going to enjoy this. So again, to close out, the book knows what it is, it commits to the genre, and it feels like a solid season 1 foundation with room to grow. And it's not all of season 1, it's the start of season 1, basically. So I think it's definitely worth checking out if you enjoy these other things I mentioned before. And if you do and you'll enjoy it, then you can help make book 2 a reality. It could be fun. So if you like this breakdown, feel free to subscribe, drop a comment, or let me know what you thought of Silver Buster. If you haven't read it yet, you should. And if you're following the crowdfunding campaign, good luck to the team. I'll be watching where this goes. Anyway, this is MJ with Henshin Inspection and Rider Tears, I guess, signing out. Also, if you want to hear me talk about more books, I talk about them on Fortress Fiction, which I'll have a link to here as well in the pinned comment and in the show notes and all that good stuff.